All right, I hereby call the special meeting of the Milwaukee City Council to order. The only item tonight is a report on council compensation jury recommendation acceptance, and that'll be introduced by the Healthy Democracy Program Manager, Lynn Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Lynn Davis, Healthy Democracy Program Manager and lead designer of this citizens jury. I first want to thank the City Council for this opportunity. You've been supportive all the way along this process, and it's an incredible opportunity to be able to test this with a really important issue in a city that's right in our backyard. In fact, my hometown. So I'm so gratified to be able to be here and appreciate your support and also the tremendous staff support we've gotten throughout the process. I also just wanted to thank the incredible staff we've had for this project, an absolutely fabulous team, and of course the panelists who worked so hard over the course of 4 days, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day, to sift through a whole lot of information, listen to the testimony of 6 different experts over the course of a number of hours, go through a number of briefing documents provided by the city, do their own independent research, and then start to evaluate all that data, come up with criteria, and present a recommendation tonight. So very grateful for that opportunity. And as you know, this is the first citizens jury in Oregon history. A city has never done this before. And while we've been doing the Citizens Initiative Review at the statewide level for 10 years, this is a very different experience in that we're not just producing voter information, we are producing a recommendation with real sort of political judgment involved, which is a new experience for us, and I appreciate you all taking the leap with us into this pilot project, and hope that you find it as useful as we do already in terms of making this process better. It's always an iterative, sort of continuous development for us, and we hope to be able to use it in many other cities and call it the Milwaukee model. So as you requested, I wanted to invite any panelists. We have a number of panelists here tonight. I believe 7 panelists here. And I believe there's a few panelists who wanted to come up and just give some impressions before we read the statement about their experience during the process, what the process was like for them, and any thoughts they had as far as the citizens jury went. Would you like to start?
Sure.
Introduce yourself first, if you would.
Yes. I'm Lana Alberto, and I wanted to say that this invitation from Healthy Democracy was a bit of a welcoming letter for me. I joined the neighborhood here in June and received the letter that same month. And I definitely felt invited to dive in as a citizen, and I'm so glad that I did. The amount that I've learned about Milwaukee's history, in addition to learning so much about its current residents and its current city council and mayor, is more than I would have learned on my own, definitely. And so I'm very appreciative of the crash course education that I got in the city of Milwaukee through this process.
My name's Christy Howland. I've actually lived in Milwaukee since 2011. Like my citizens jury panel members, I am grateful for the opportunity, and the whole process just kind of gave me renewed hope. I don't really want to elaborate too much on that. It's just nice to see people get involved in their communities again. So.
Anybody else? Yeah.
So this has been a wonderful experience. I learned so much about the city that I live in, and I really have come to love just in the little over 3 years that I've been here. The experience, the process, the facilitators were absolutely amazing. The food was good.
That's important.
And the jury itself, very diverse, very different perspectives, but the amazing thing was that we came together and we could be kind to each other and respectful, And I don't see that in our world these days. So it gives me a lot of hope. And I think that you're going to see that those 18 people are probably going to be watching the city of Milwaukee's closer than they ever had thought they would.
No doubt.
What was your name for the record?
Cheryl Wampler.
Cheryl, thank you.
Actually, Cheryl, you've reminded me of something I forgot to mention, which is just that I should say how you all got here as by way of sort of process. That we sent out a mailing to 5,000 random addresses across the city of Milwaukee, a little over half of households. And we got back a little over 100 responses, about a 2% response rate, which is normal. On the second try, we tried to do this in the summer and got back a lower response rate, which maybe makes sense for an Oregon summer. Of those 100, we then had a public selection process where we selected 20 with a number of alternates. Eventually, after a couple of late emergencies, ended up with a panel of 18. Demographically representative, relatively speaking, after the alternates and so forth. And we'll be releasing that information pretty soon. I think that's pretty much all we need to say, unless anybody has anything to fill in or questions, or anyone else wants to say anything.
So it was a 4 whole day process, correct?
Correct.
And a lot of research, a lot of information from a variety of sources. And
Yes, that's right. Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I would have liked to have seen was more information provided by the city. I mean, we ended up fortunately having time to do research on our own, but that took time out of talking to one another in a large group setting to figure out where we stood. So just, I mean, we'll kind of go into that a little bit later. I think it's in there, I know. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I welcome the opportunity to reach a point in our discussion to where I felt like, oh, I need to look at the city budget. And then it was actually a pleasure to find it through the website and then discover its ease of use. So it is a lovely document, and I didn't read it in its entirety of the 395 pages.
I was going to be impressed if you did.
No, I was able to use it, and we were able to apply the information from that document to our process. So.
Well, this concept is something that's been very interesting to me since I learned about it, and a lot of frustration that we experience when we're making decisions, and there are voters that are uncomfortable with our decisions, are the difference between people who have had a chance to learn a lot about the thing you're making the decision on and folks who are just seeing it superficially. And so this concept where you gather a random group of citizens and then give them that level of information, I thought was brilliant. I think it's a model for more functional democracy than a lot of the way things work today. So I'm very excited that we're doing this here, and curious to see what you guys decided.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, to say that we were given information is a little bit, our biggest struggle in this was that position of impartiality that Healthy Democracy was in terms of not guiding us and not influencing our decision. So really, as a group of citizens, we were given a question, and that was about it. So the direction that we went with looking for the right information to apply to that was our biggest challenge.
That's interesting.
I'm really grateful you all stepped up to the plate and had the curiosity and commitment to democracy and to a process that takes an investment of your time, your intellect, your hearts. It speaks very highly of our community, and you are representing the very best of our community in a really, now I'm going to get all teary, in a really touching way. So thank you to all of you.
And I'm glad you got good food out of it, because if you're going to spend 4 days, if you're going to be together in a room for 4 days, you got to have something good to, you know,
The food was-
sustain you.
The food was very good. I'm a paramedic. I can tell you. It's very good. We're very picky. Ask the fire and police department. They'll tell you.
All right. So, if there's no more questions or anything, I would entertain a motion.
Well, no, they've got to.
we still need to hear it, so I
Are you
think
doing
it's back to them to
Do we
actually
do the
present.
motion
Oh, it's
We're
back
at
to us
to
to
the
present the
recommendation.
recommendation.
before? Okay. All right.
Yeah, otherwise, how would we know?
Well,
Well, we're just
Yes.
accepting it anyhow, we're not
Yeah.
like voting on it, we're having a discussion about it. Use 150 font? Oh, yeah.
We can scroll through. Or you can scroll through as we read. Either way. I'll do it.
Okay, go back to the width.
Yeah.
Bigger, maybe?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll be reading the majority recommendation. A recommendation, based on the 2000 to 2019 rate of inflation, set the monthly stipend amount for mayor from $300 to $369, and for council members from $250 to $307. And in the future, adjust according to the biennial budget based on CPI. Technology tools, public transportation, and child and elder care reimbursement provided on an as-needed basis to help mayor and council members perform their job. Benefits should be capped to not burden the taxpayer. The mayor should be provided the option of a city-issued cell phone or set allowance for cell phone expenses. Our rationale is based on the following. The city should provide the necessary technology and resources needed for the mayor and council members to do their job well. We recognize the power and responsibility of the position, plan for future adjustments, increase voter choice in elections, get up to date, keep volunteer, not salaried positions, and minimize impact to the taxpayer.
So the process for recommendations, let's see here. In consideration of future compensation adjustments, we recommend more detailed data, including time spent, resources spent, and reviewing expenditures to be provided to voters or independent reviews. 18 of the 18 panelists supported this. Because of the budget overrun in the general council meals and travel, recommend revisiting the budget. Everybody agreed with that. Use an existing application application to track spending expenditures to make sure that the budgets aren't going over on a regular basis, just to kind of keep tracking. And if the council cannot find funds, if council cannot find the, I'm very tired, I'm very sorry. Thank
I
you.
hope she doesn't have to go to work.
If the council cannot fund the changes from the current city budget, any potential financial impact on the citizens must go to the voters.
And then it should be noted that there are then 2 pages of minority reports that make up the other 9 panelists, separated into 4 other minority reports. But we'll leave those for you to read on your own.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the time and effort you put into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Careful consideration. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I also want to offer my thanks. I tuned in like 2 or 3 times to about 10 minutes each time of, something. And twice when I tuned in, it was you were on break or lunch, so. Yeah, so I went back again later, so, and then I thought, and I was really pleased that there were 18 people who, stood solid through the 4 days. I didn't watch anything today, so I assume you all stood solid through the 4 days. And I think, I'm going to shamelessly take an opportunity with the advantage of having you all in the room, that there are several boards, committees, and commissions of the city that we're always looking for volunteers for.
I knew that was coming.
You can find that information on our website. And also, this year, we kicked off our inaugural Milwaukee Leadership Program so that folks could learn all about the city. That particular program is going on right now, but if it's successful, and so far it's just 2 or 3 meetings in, but it's been extremely successful. We have 25 people registered for that, including 4 high school students. 4 high school students.
Yeah, but we're up to 30.
30 now. And so watch for that next year. The applications will be available, all this will be available online. Read the Milwaukee pilot, find out those kinds of things. And continue this tremendous, work that you've done and the knowledge of the city that you've gained from this. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for that invitation. Take it to heart. Thank you.
And just as an aside, I think Lynn went over this, but we will be having, my guess is, future discussions about this topic. We will make sure that Lynn gets the links to the meetings so that he can connect you with them if
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
like to see how the conversation continues.
Super.
Okay.
So
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thank you
much.
very, very much.
Well, I would move to accept the recommendations of the council compensation jury.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the recommendations of the council compensation jury. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. The jury and Healthy Democracy team are excused, if you'd like to be. You're welcome to stay. It's a public meeting.
Thanks.
Recognize Clackamas Community College permanent campus. They donated the space for us for the entire, actually 5 days, 1 day instead of 4 days for this. So just know how instrumental they were in making this happen.
That's great. Thank you.
First question is,
So as soon as they clear, we'll have that conversation. Do we have the minority reports?
We don't.
We have it there.
It's all on
You can
this.
scroll through. I haven't seen any of this, so I don't know. Yeah, if you want to keep going. They're there.
You need to, yeah, you'll need that. question. Utility
Sure.
bill credit, that's
Go ahead.
interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Oop. There you go.
Relatively similar, but different,
Yeah.
different nuances. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, can you scroll back to whatever's the top of that? There we go. Okay. Thank you.
I would guess that this can all be sent, this can be
Yes.
sent to all of us electronically, I think. Yeah.
And so the question posed is, what's the next step for staff? How would you all like to have a conversation moving forward? So our council schedule for the rest of the meetings in November and December are pretty busy. I would recommend that we look at something in January to put this back on for a conversation so all of you have some time to digest it. And that also gives us any time you would need to change your budget prior to submitting it.
Prior
We
to
really
that.
should have that done before February.
Yeah, so that also gives each of us individually time to really, you know,
Cogitate.
thank you, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and ask any questions that we might feel we need to ask prior to having a meeting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, questions of staff. So if you
Yeah,
think of
that's what
things
I
that you'd like us to bring to the table, you're welcome to just email me. And if I can, if they're fast, I can get those pulled together before we meet. If they're going to take longer, we'll talk about them first at the meeting. And just so people know, the city managers on here are Tualatin and Lake Oswego. So Martha Bennett, who was at Metro, is now at Lake Oswego. And Lombos is at Tualatin, and she's been there for, I think, 10 to 12 years, hasn't she? Yeah, she's been there a long time.
And Martha was also a city manager for Hood River and
Troutdale, I
Ashland?
think. Was she Hood River or
Hood River.
Troutdale?
Here.
She was our
was
assistant
here.
city manager.
Yeah.
That's actually
She was
part
assistant
of,
city manager
I
or
think,
something here?
She was.
I can't make assumptions, I didn't watch, but I do know that, I know that she had talked to Lynn, because Lynn and I spoke briefly just about making sure that she felt the support to answer any questions about what she knew about Milwaukee from her experience.
Sounds good.
So are you comfortable with a January date? Okay. So the staff report is literally going to be this, with asking for direction on how you'd like us to proceed, both from a budgetary and any policy changes that you'd like to see out of the
Can
document.
we also, maybe, I was struck, did budget overruns and meals and travel?
Yeah, that,
So-
yeah.
I've
Thank you
never
for that,
actually-
Angel, because that concerned me.
Part of,
Except for the first year when I went to.
I'm not
LSE.
going to make Lynn do
So
this
I
because
just
I
wanted-
purposely did not want to make Lynn do this, but I'm going to extrapolate from the conversations that he and I have had in the past, that they really tried to give them full access to find the information, make decisions based on the information they were able to find, and proceed. I don't actually know where that came from. When that came
Okay.
up, I turned to Scott and said, did we have cost overruns? So,
But, yeah, we can look into it.
so we can address that if you'd like and
I think
address it.
maybe
in
just sort of
separate.
throughout, just to make sure, I mean, it would be nice to sort of like, have.
Fact checking.
Because this, exactly, I think it would
Well,
just
it
be,
can
it's
help.
sort of helpful, like when we have when we have testimony come in, I'm sort of
Sure.
doing this as testimony, we give staff the opportunity to answer any, respond to anything, and I
Right.
think that would be really great. So instead of
Especially
just
the-
giving this to us,
Yeah.
make sure that, like, we can maybe footnote some things, just in case there are areas where.
Well, I think knowing that
Need an
information about our
explanation.
budgets, will help us too, because we can
Oh, we
maybe
have
make
it.
better.
We do
Well,
it.
Right.
We have it, it's,
Yeah,
we've
but we
seen it
just,
every
I
quarter.
know, we just
haven't
don't.
gone over budget, which is why I'm
No, I
curious
know
where
it,
that
and
would've-
because I remember just recently when we were talking about, actually paying the dues to Clackamas County Business Alliance, we checked mine specifically, and,
Right.
it was,
You
it
have
wasn't
lots.
any
Yeah.
issue.
Well, even if we went over for our food, we're now gonna go under. We're gonna make up for that in the second
Significantly.
half of the biennium, so.
Yeah, when you were
Yeah,
talking
true.
about how great the food
True.
was, it's like,
It's a
oh,
lot.
I can see something.
Wow.
Where'd they get food from?
We're gonna be buying food again. So
I have
I
nothing at home to
I
bring.
do want to just confirm that we're going to be responding to the majority report. So we will be
Yeah.
going through on the majority report and responding. If there are items on the minority report that you'd like us to fact check as well, feel free to email me those, but my focus right now is on the majority report.
Is
I
there?
think it
fair?
should be, yeah.
I haven't seen anything besides the council budget going over that was really off for me.
The one thing that I could think of is, when you pay for your council Clackamas Cities dinner, it comes out of a line, but when income comes in, it doesn't. And I don't know what they were looking at, but I do know that income doesn't go into the same budget line that it goes out of.
Oh.
So, and that's always where something where you spend $2,500, but you get income comes back into it, but it doesn't go into the same account line. So without knowing what they're looking at, it could be something like that.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't, it obviously struck someone.
Yeah,
When
right.
they were reading the
Yeah,
budget.
for it
And
to
they
be
thought,
mentioned.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, this city council is just spending
And
money.
was it an overage
like-
of 100? Or thousands
When-
of dollars?
We'll make
We're
sure it's
not.
included in the budget,
So I
in
think
the
we
staff
probably
report.
need to
That's
clarify
all
it in the
those
budget.
T-bone steaks for dinner, right?
Never.
Never.
So,
We'll make sure that that's in the staff report for the
No,
meeting.
thank you.
that would be great. I mean, I wouldn't, I'm surprised that panelists, took the time to read through the budget. I'm very grateful that they did that.
Oh, yeah.
There was obviously, a little more it was a little more
Yeah.
complicated than it appeared apparently, because, if you don't come out with the right answer, then I think we need to make sure that we're providing it in a way that provides the right answer.
Yep, I agree. And I think one of the discussions for Lynn and his organization moving forward, and for us, if we do this again, is there were several times that Lynn asked for me to go, and I declined. And I declined because I didn't want to be seen as leading the group, and I didn't want to be seen as getting in between
Yeah.
this group and the council's decision. But I do think that that means that some information that would have been at my fingertips was not provided. And so we can have a discussion. I think Lynn and I, when we debrief, it would be really great to understand the things that caught this group, so that we can also do a double check of, how do we, if we go down this path, make sure the right information from
Yeah.
this experience is passed along?
Yeah, see, my impression was that what I said, very often in our processes, we have citizens who are upset with the decision we made. And generally speaking, they're upset because they don't have all the information we have. They haven't been given the staff reports, they haven't read the packets, they don't know all the stuff that we're dealing with, they're not looking at the big picture. And my hope was that this process actually did that given that it was 4 days, 8 hours a day, that they would have big picture information that was accurate.
They were given a lot of big picture information that we haven't talked about today. So they had a panel of city managers, they had people from the Oregon Ethics Commission, they had individuals who came and gave significant testimony and had interactions with the group. I I think that part of it was being predictive as to what the questions would be and not being there at the point where the questions arose. And I think that's always an issue. It's as if I hand you a staff report and say, this should be enough information for you to make a decision. It's never going to be enough information.
Well,
I'm never
and-
going to be able to fully predict what you're looking for.
And anybody that might want to find out more about that can certainly go watch all 4 of the YouTube days, you
Yeah.
know, so it's all there.
One of the great things, I was speaking with one of the observers just outside, so one of the individuals on this side of the room, and his comment was, it gave me hope. Truly gave him hope, because every single person in that room cared enough and became educated on things that if you had asked them at the start, would they have would they have really understood the budget? Or would they have wanted to understand the budget?
Right.
You wouldn't have gotten the same answer, but these are 18 incredible people who did an incredible amount of work with very little guidance and figured out some really hard questions. And I am in awe, actually, of how much they did.
Well, and
with-
a couple of them testified as well, that
Yeah.
it gave them hope.
Absolutely. Gave me hope.
So we should just do this for all of our decisions.
Because we have $40,000 off to do this over. No, I mean, I think that it should also be noted that this process was expensive to run, but that it was a valuable process. And for some questions, it is absolutely appropriate. And I think this body now can talk about when that is, and we can have discussions about where you'd like to see it in the future if you'd like to fund it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's really cool.
It was amazing.
I'm really glad we got to be guinea pigs for this, you know. And because we were guinea pigs, that means there's lessons that we're
Gonna learn.
learning along the way. That's just how it works.
Lynn's
Well,
really
it's never gonna
excited
be
to
a-
have coffee, I think, this week.
And even the results of this will be good information for other cities throughout the state of Oregon, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have, I'd like to know if, and I don't know if you can answer this tonight, but, you know, what would the next city, you know, do better? You know, or, you know, would there be a little, you know, in addition to what Milwaukee did, you know, what would you recommend to improve on the process for the next city? And so maybe adding some of that to the future staff report would just sort of be, I guess, maybe, I'm curious about that. I feel like, you know, we don't know what we don't know. You know, I think, and, you know, including like, what did they think how much money did they think we were spending on food and travel? You know, I'm curious about that. Like, what is that number, you know? So, if there are any, you know, if there's any kind of, because, I appreciate that it's all, you know, available, but it's, most of us actually don't have time to watch 4 days of.
Oh,
you know,
no, and you would, they're all like 7 and 8 hours, so
Right,
no.
and that's
No.
kind of part of.
But you can
That's the
skip through them and see, like, when a panel is speaking and, you know, stuff like that.
My only caution is the speed at which you'll get that information. I'd really like to see if Lynn generally can come back instead of talking about this question,
Sure.
maybe in 6 months. Because we had talked about this being peer reviewed and really having that really in-depth discussion in sort of the broader community about how these work and how they'll work in Oregon. So that might be the right time for that, and I think it'd be a great tool for us to bring back at that point.
That's a good idea.
So he's not having to rush, because I
Sure.
think he
Yeah,
needs sleep.
no, I definitely don't want.
We'll still be super curious about this 6 months down the road.
I'm not going to answer that
Nope.
question, but can I just say something about
Sure.
our future? Just to note that, yes, we are planning to put together a staff report, our staff, about the whole process that will, you know, clearly there's a lot of extra information that was generated during the process, criteria and options and evidence that was collected and all that kind of stuff. There will be addendums to a future report in addition to feedback from our independent researcher, third-party researcher who will have survey data and qualitative data to come back with as well.
Great.
It was cool. It was an amazing experience, and I really, just before he leaves, I wanted to personally thank Lynn. He put his heart and soul into this process, and it took a lot of meetings with me and Justin. And I really appreciate how committed he was to making it such a quality experience for our residents and for us, and for finding the grant funding to cover the cost. It was it was really exceptional.
As a reminder, what was the grant? How?
10,000.
Sure. Yes, that's something I should have mentioned. I should have mentioned two thank yous that I forgot. One, to Clackamas Community College for donating the venue straight up, which is an immense cost savings, as you can imagine. And secondly, to the Sailing Foundation, who are a local foundation here in Oregon, who have given to our work before and were generous enough to fund all the direct costs of this pilot, which was $20,000. And then Healthy Democracy provided our staff time in the neighborhood of something like $15,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back in January unless you have other things you want to add. Okay.
All right.
What, no 9 PM?
Well, it could have been more robust. We just wanted to be prepared.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.